Oh, this video is going to be poorly received. All right, let me start off with a little background about myself, since I've never talked about Warhammer on this channel. I've known about Warhammer for many years, though I've never actually played the tabletop game. Frankly, I just don't think I have enough attention span for it. I'd heard about Warhammer Fantasy first, and I thought it was cool, but 40k is what really grabbed my attention. In terms of sci-fi universes, not only is it one of my favorites, I think it's also one of the greatest ever conceived. I do own a few models, both from Fantasy and 40k, but it's mainly for the novelty and to support the incredible artists who designed them. I also own a number of the games and regularly play several of them. I think my favorite is probably Gladius, Relics of War, but I have also enjoyed Space Hulk, Deathwing, Space Marine 2, DACA Squadron, and Darktide. I'm mainly a fan of Tyranids, but I do like all the factions in some way, except for the Tau. Now, DEI is a hot button issue right now, so let me give you a quick summary on my stance on it. But if you want a more in-depth discussion, I have a video that I'll hopefully link in the description and on a card in this video if I remember. I don't like DEI policies. I feel like I need to specify the policies part because people like to mischaracterize disdain for DEI as a hatred for diversity itself. The fact is, I was always taught, and I do believe this to this day, that people should never be hired based on immutable characteristics. Race, gender, whatever. The only qualifications for working should be those directly relevant to a person's capability to perform the tasks required of them. So, no, I didn't buy Veilguard, but I did laugh at it. So I like Warhammer, and I dislike DEI. So why would I want female Custodes? Well, when I first heard about this, I thought it was absurd. We already have Sisters of Silence who assist the Custodes with psychic threats, so it really doesn't make sense to need female Custodes unless we're suddenly going to have male Sisters of Silence. I probably shouldn't give Games Workshop any ideas. And I get that while the Custodes aren't the same as Space Marines, as in aren't created from a gene seed based on a Primarch that is based on the Emperor himself, it still doesn't really make sense to have female Custodes. I mean, with Space Marines not even having genitals in the first place, how would breasts assist in combat? At any rate, even though I'm making a case against female Custodes, there are two key points I'd like to present in defense of the inclusion of not just female Custodes, but more DEI practices throughout the Imperium of Man in its entirety. One of the things I love about the 40k universe is how relentlessly brutal it all is. They always say that in the battle between good and evil, evil has more fun. And as such, when every faction is some flavor of evil, the whole thing is a lot of fun. It's an outlet to let loose, ignore the moral quandaries of warfare, and pretend you really are a denizen of a universe that knows only war. And that's just it. It's pretend. Even though you're having a good time playing as an evil bastard, that doesn't make you an evil bastard. But you are playing an evil bastard. We all know that the Imperium of Man is one of the most brutal, violent, and zealous regimes in the history of, well, fiction, honestly. Even real history struggles to match the level of cruelty and intolerance on display in the Empire. So here's the thing. Adding racial and gender inclusivity into the lore of the Empire makes absolutely no sense from the standpoint of just how intolerant and cruel they are. However, we all know that DEI isn't actually about inclusivity or equality in practice. It's kind of like communism, honestly. It's about some people being more equal than others, discriminating by skin color, and calling anyone who disagrees with it a bigot. Kind of like how the Empire labels anyone who defies them a heretic. DEI, by its very nature, isn't rooted in a genuine desire to provide equal opportunities. The term equity is in the name. It's about money. It's about lining the pockets of specific people via moral grandstanding to appeal to emotion and manipulate the bleeding heart first world crybabies who want an easy way to pat themselves on the back without actually lifting a finger to provide real help and support to those in need. So by implementing DEI practices into the lore of the Imperium, Games Workshop would be making the statement that yes, indeed, like the Empire itself, DEI is rooted in evil and functions as a useful tool for a fascist regime due to its effectiveness in controlling people. Have I convinced you yet? Well, allow me to get to my second point. If these stupid fake inclusivity practices get heavily integrated into the lore of 40k, the entire feel of the universe would be altered. It wouldn't really feel right anymore. And even though my first point is definitely humorous and would amuse people for a while, I think it would inevitably taint the very experience of 40K down to its core and turn most people off. This would likely lead to Games Workshop either backpedaling super hard or doubling down and going bankrupt in yet another case of an age-old beloved franchise being executed by psychotic modernists who don't respect the history of the property. And how fitting would that be for an empire spanning decades in our world and millennia in their world to be toppled from within by insane lowlives who've never experienced real problems, never taken responsibility for their own place in the world, and blame everyone else for all the little minor struggles that they do have. So, Games Workshop, it's your move. Betray the fans who made your empire prosper while simultaneously proving them correct that DEI is wrong and ill-fitting of the 40K universe, or lock in. Listen to your fans. Stop dehumanizing them and understand that they aren't just neo-Nazis living out their dreams of subjugation and genocide vicariously through plastic toys on a table. They're just fans of a fictional world and the fun hobbies associated with it. Yeah, there's some bad actors in the fan base, but that's true of every large group of people, especially Canadians. And with multiple groups sufficiently pissed off, I take my leave. Leave your comments down below to tell me how much of a piece of shit I am, and I'll see you in the next one.